Good morning, Minister Turner. Thank you so much for joining us. So, a lot has been going on recently. So, let us first begin
Hmm.
with recapping how your summer camp program was, because I know you've been really busy at the constituency
Yes,
level and
that's
you had
correct.
your summer camp. So, give us a little brief update on how that went.
The summer camp, thank you again, and to your listening and viewing audience, the summer camp was a huge success. I think that all the children in attendance, and we were holding approximately 46 to, I think the highest number we had at 53 one day. And all the kids that attended the whole experience and what the kids took away in hindsight now, they were blown off their feet.
Mhm.
Parents were so grateful for knowing that their kids were at a safe place and knew that they were given 3 square meals. And the biggest takeaway is that this camp was totally free. This was my way of giving back, understanding the cost of having children home, making sure if you don't have someone to take care of the children while you're at work as a parent, that there was no worries there. It started from 8 until 3:30. Sometimes parents got a little late. Quarter to 4, we can give and take with that. But they got breakfast, they got lunch, and in the afternoon, they were given a very healthy snack to go home with, and the tours, the field trips, and the educational background that it gained. And huge thanks to my volunteers. We had some young adults who came back from school that also volunteered their time, and to the constituency office, small yet mighty team. Then we had some of those parents who really realized, wow, Team Prospect is really doing this for free. How is this even possible? And then we had those who either sponsored a field trip when they realized it was really out of pocket, because they saw the impact that it was having on the children. And some parents even volunteered on giving some snacks and stuff like that. Family and friends, they
Mhm.
gave snacks, fruit, and all that. So it all came together for good. And I'm very grateful for all of those who put their heart, their soul, gave their time in making it a huge success. I think that next year the demand will be even greater because people either didn't hear me on your show, all of the PR that I did promoting the camp so that you can get into early registration. We ended up taking children from all parts of the island. Kids saw what we were posting. They told their parents, wherever you got me now, I don't want to go back. I want to go to Miss
Mm.
Sabrina's camp. Yes, at a point we have had a waiting list because really, when you look at each constituency or district, a number of my colleagues were having summer camps within their constituencies. So, of course, I roll it out, making sure that the prospect people would have had first preference. But you
Mhm.
didn't want to just be that exclusive understanding that we're all one at the end of the day, have a camp just because it was exclusively for prospect. And then no one showed up.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
later on, when we realized that people were either traveling with their kids or are already financially committed to other camps, we opened it up to children from Central Georgetown, we even had some from Bodden Town. And I think, if my memory serves me well, as far as Northside, despite Minister Ebanks having his, we had one or two from Northside as well. So it was a huge success, Sandra.
That is fantastic. And I want to talk about this just a little bit here because we know that you
Mm-hmm.
also had your back to school drive. So tell us about how successful that event was.
That now again was a huge hit, and lessons learned from last year's back to school. We had a limited amount of school bags because we all know the kids love the JanSport bags because they are tough and they can really go the distance. This year, with supply chain issues and of course cost went up, I deliberately shopped local, and where I requested 150 bags, I was only able to get 100. So I put in checks and balances in place where you had to fill out a slip. We had to be assured that you were from the electoral district of Prospect in order to get a knapsack. I had to be that strict. And I'm really happy that I took that approach because understanding that we have a community where we have Adventists, we have persons who were working and just could not have gotten to us on the Saturday. With that approach, we were able then to have those persons who couldn't make it on the Saturday come between the Monday and the Thursday of the following week to collect their supplies. And we know for a fact that it was going to our prospect people. But if you came and you were from another area, you didn't leave empty-handed. You could partake of all of the food that we had, the bunks and castles, play with the games, and you were given the opportunity to get school supplies. Even socks were there. But people were really after the bags because they were real JanSport bags. But I was a little disheartened because we had some just came from other areas trying to convince us that they were from Prospect and double dipping, so to speak. And I thought that left a bad taste in my mouth. But I can understand what people do when they want what they want. But I have to be fair to my Prospect people, that they are given first preference, setting aside these children need their supplies to go back to school. What was not committed, we were still able to extend bags to those with what we had left. But right now we've been exhausted, and we're hoping that with all of the other back to school events that those who may have come to Prospect that wasn't from Prospect, whatever supplies we have left where school supplies are concerned, maybe not a bag, that we were able to assist where we could.
Yes. And I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that because over the weekend I had someone message me and they said, oh, a lady went to the office at for Georgetown Central, which would be Kenneth Bryan, and they basically were rude to her. And I said, well, you got to give me a little bit more detail than that. Like, I don't know what that means. What do you mean they were rude? And she said, well, they wouldn't give her a bag because she didn't live in the constituency, or wasn't a voter or something like that. And I said, listen, the truth of the matter is there's some people who overdo it. They are, backpack and school supply hogs. They try to take everything when they don't really need. And I'm really encouraging people to focus on what is an actual need versus a want. A lot of times you pack up on all these school supplies and your kids don't even use them for the year. And it's like you're still going out there doing a grab of supplies and backpacks and whatever. And it's like, why? If we as a community really took an approach of, only take what you need, don't take anything more. That gives everybody a fair share. Exactly. Yeah. And it's always those handful of people, because I don't think the majority of people do this, but it's always those handful of people who are just greedy is the best term to describe them. And they want to take everything. So after having, a little bit of a conversation with this individual, I said, all of the constituencies are having to do it because, it ensures a more equitable distribution of the school backpacks and of the school bags and, all the supplies and stuff. I said, let us also be very fair to the MPs. There's only so much that they can do. So you don't have a bottomless pit of money. This isn't a government sponsored initiative. This is coming out of either your own pocket or, if you do any fundraising, if, you've got people who make donations towards these types of things. So it takes money to put these things on. It takes money to get, of course, turkeys and ham and whatever for Christmas and hand out stuff for the kids. And, so people must be respectful of the fact that you guys have a limited budget, because you, just like everybody else, makes a monthly salary. You, just like everybody else, has expenses. You've got mortgages to pay, perhaps car payments. Some MPs still have children that are in schools, and so they've got to make sure that their schools are taken care of. You got a CUC bill too. CUC isn't giving you anything for free,
Oh no! Oh no!
So I just want to remind people to try to be understanding and respectful of the process. And because of the few people who have done this over the years, a lot of the MPs have resorted to having to, have their lists and verify that you're on the list.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
It is lessons learned, because the last time, again, we had just got, well, for myself as a first time elected person, MP, I had never had it on that mass before. I've been involved in the community for years, but it's a different level when you're actually an elected official. And if I had taken the same approach as last year, I can assure you Everything would have been gone within the first half hour. And my people who made it possible for me to get elected to represent Prospect would have gotten little to nothing. If we didn't have the checks and balances in place, I would not have been able to make sure that the people of Prospect had gotten supplies, because they would have been given to even, and I'm sorry to say this, visitors who are visiting for the summer. If we didn't have checks and balances in place, that would have happened. And my kids who are here living in Prospect would have gone, oh, I'm sorry, we're all out.
Wow.
Yes.
That is
so it's
so
because
crazy.
of those checks and balances. And when you ask the necessary questions and they're realizing you're getting deeper, people would say, or may feel as though we're being disrespectful or a little rude or coming off a bit harsh. But that's why we're here to protect and to make sure that our people come first. And that's who we are at Prospect constituency.
Yes.
We take care of our own first.
Right. So Mallory says it would be great if there was something for the 13 to 16 and 17-year-olds, or encouraging them to participate and assist at these summer camps. But the Red Bay MP needs to do more for his constituency. Haven't heard from him since he was elected. Child, he's out on the farm.
For my summer camp, though, I must say I had about 5 who were in that age group.
Yes.
And we were able to give them a little token, a little envelope as an incentive, saying thank you. They helped us with the younger children, getting them in line. And, these were children that weren't even necessarily from Prospect. They just heard of the camp and they were boasting their volunteer shirts. So
yes.
Kudos to those young ladies and gentlemen who one went off to play football for our national team, and I was so proud of him. He was so mature, and he came and he executed his duties, and I could see it with the bottom of his heart. So beautiful. Yes, we do involve our young adults because they are one of the reasons for sure that I put myself in this position.
Now, I want to give you all a perfect example of diplomacy. Did you see how Minister Turner just sidestepped that last comment? Minister, let's move on and talk about...
Sandra.
Yes, ma'am.
I can still give you a deaf ear on that one. What was another takeaway and new for this back to school drive is the free vision testing that we did.
Oh, yes. And you were I think you were the only one who might have incorporated a little element of health. And I like that, obviously as health minister, that's fantastic. So yes, you did all of the kids who came and wanted to do eye exams. You allowed them to...
They could do it from 4 to 11.
Oh, wow. That was so good. So how many, do you know how many children actually had their eyes checked?
I know I'm going to go out on a limb here. I know we had at least 12 when I last checked, because some of the parents came, and to show you the respect, a lot of that was opened for the entire island. And they realized we were doing a back to school drive, but the eye testing was not just limited for Prospect children. And they realized what we were doing. The kids stayed and played, but they didn't come with an expectation of walking away with a bag.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So yeah, that was another big takeaway. So that was the icing on the cake with giving these children that opportunity to get their eyes tested.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Because, these are things that sometimes kids need glasses and they might not even recognize it.
They don't know. Yeah. And we found a few. A few were found that they didn't realize their kids were having difficulty seeing until they were tested. And the good thing is, that comes with a cost, and it was free. We did it. You didn't have to worry about insurance. Yes. You didn't have to worry about where am I going to find this money to get at least the first part out of the way.
Right.
They were able to partake in that free of cost.
Beautiful. All right. Now there was something else I was going to say to you when you mentioned that. Oh gosh, it slipped me now. But I think at the end of the day, you've been very, very busy, to say the least, at the constituency level. And
Mhm.
you always having different events and stuff for the community. So just remind people of the location of your office and how they can contact your office staff if they have any questions or anything of the sort.
Sure. The office is located 33 Marina Drive, and we're there from 10 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning until 5:30 in the afternoon. Now, there are days that we will be there a little longer than others, and but that's usually time from 10 o'clock in the morning. We're very active, as you know, Sandra, on social media. We post all the events, so there's no guesswork about what we're doing. And as you rightfully say, whether or not we're functioning as a constituency
Mhm.
office, we are accessible there.
Mhm.
And our phone number at the office is 746-9314. That's 746-9314. And I must say that it has been a shelter and a resource for a number of persons from all constituencies. And I'm going to make it public. A lot of the persons who pulled the door are really not from Prospect. I'm
Mhm.
getting them from other constituencies, and where we can assist, we
Mhm.
will. A lot of people is just navigating how do I get assistance temporarily. We all know that you have to go through the NAU process first in order to be assessed. Before
Mhm.
example, you get onto Cynical medical insurance coverage. That is the process. So they have now computerized that process, and we're able to assist if it is a case where it's the completion of a form for government services. That's what we're there for. But the reason why each elected member is giving an allowance to run an office is so that they can take care of their people
Mhm.
where we are located. We're straddled pretty much between my electoral district, which is Prospect, and the electoral prospect of Red Bay. It's predominantly used by people from all over the island
Mhm.
sometimes
Mhm.
because they realize that people are there and they
Yes.
can see where they're contacted and it's actioned as best as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it always happens that way, Minister Turner, where, once you've established a track record of performance, people always come to
Mm-hmm.
you. I mean, I had a lady call me yesterday, this Jamaican lady, she's having some issues. Sounds like a lot of stuff. We had a preliminary conversation, and the first thing she said is, Miss, I'm sure you get a lot of phone calls, but everybody that I speak to says you need to go to Sandy. You need to go to Sandy. She's the one who can help you. And sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
can't help people, but a lot of times I can give them honest advice, or I can just point them in the direction of who can assist them. And a lot of times
Correct.
I find that that's all people want. They just want somebody who's going to answer the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like,
Yeah.
when we call you, when we message you, you respond. And that's like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they can't even I get a hold of their own MPs in that way. So I feel you in that, because they know your constituency office has regular hours. Somebody's there, somebody's doing work. That I hope y'all don't abuse it. But yes, Sabrina's office is indeed working hard. But I want to remind all of you that every single MP gets an allowance. Um, to have an MP office. If they don't have a physical allowance, they all still take the money, which they can then use to help people in their constituents. So whether it's buying food vouchers, community activities, whatever, all of them get an allowance. And then do ministers get an extra? I'm trying to remember. I think there's something. I
No,
think
ma'am.
ministers get one more office assistant. Is that what was done?
Yes, that's all we get. And
Yeah.
we get ministers, elected ministers get, you're allowed to get two and possibly a part-time, but please remember that this is paid for out of the government's coffers. And
Mhm.
let's clarify the allowance, because again, this is all education and I'm learning as we go. A lot of people, the allowance that we get, I think in people's minds before constituency offices came a thing, that they think the the allowance is to just distribute.
Mhm.
It is stated in the rule book that is to operate your office, utilities,
Mhm.
supplies, the rent. It is not that we're given this money to just carte blanche give out. And what we are doing, instead of isolated cases or making sure that, let's say, one person is always coming for money every week like clockwork, that's not the approach. I try to establish, why are you looking for a handout every day? What is the problem? Can you work? Can we get you the right pathway of getting assistance from government? So some people may be a little upset because that is not the office to distribute cash. We don't have it at our disposal. We're running a properly functioning office. There will be isolated cases. Let's say there's a house fire or someone getting some issues. We will assist in them getting to the NAU services and getting assistance. You know for a fact that in emergency purposes, we have given food packages. But whether or not I have an endless supply of certificates for CUC or food cards, those cards is cash. That cash can go further when I go and I stock up on certain things. Instead of giving one person $200, how far can that $200 go if I get the supplies? I can have a better impact on a much more larger amount of persons within the constituency than in isolation. So we got to make sure that we educate the community that it's just not an ATM machine. That's not what we are in 33 Marina Drive. We are helping for those of everyone, and there's a process.
And for those of you who have constituency offices, that is rent that you are paying, and with that comes other, utilities and so
expenses.
Forth.
Yes.
So
I mean, the utility bill for Duran, I was cringing at the utility bill because the 3-week camp, the doors are opening, the air conditioning, that was close to $900.
Child, we feel you.
And that went from $300 and odd to automatically.
The fuel factor almost doubled as well. But
exactly.
But Minister, I wanted to also ask, are you still having food there available through the food bank? Because there were some people asking yesterday about, they're like,
no. Okay. I went to correct you the last time. The food bank, we don't work with the food bank. What we actually distribute is out of pocket.
Okay.
Because we are building our own little pantry. We're building our own little pantry. We have not collabed with anybody else. No.
Right. Okay. Because I know some constituency offices actually have, like, they get food from the food bank, bags of chicken and whatever, and then they kind of
everything that we have ever distributed, outside of that of Christmas, where it's a collective effort, we have done that out of pocket. So it's not that we're collabed with any other organization to help in the distribution. No.
Because believe it or not, somebody
that
was
office.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that someone was asking me yesterday. They said, they see a lot of people doing the back to school stuff, but what about food? And I was like, well, normally, there are options such as NAU, ARC, and so on. But, you shouldn't be in a situation where you're needing a food voucher every single month,
every week.
No,
some is literally every week.
Yeah. I have a few people that keep asking. I had a young lady yesterday that messaged me. And this is quite a number of times now that she's come, and it's always like, oh, I've applied for a job and I'm not getting anything. Can you help me with a food voucher? And I had to say to her, I said, honey, child, this month for me in particular, and again, I'm not an MP, so nobody's given me a $5,000 allowance to help anybody. But at the end of the day, where I can help, I try to help. And I said, this month was rough. I had school fees. I had school uniforms. I'm not taking a backpack from anybody. You know what I'm saying? So plus I also have that CUC bill. And y'all saw my usage yesterday.
Look at the MP. Speaking for myself. If you look straight from Christmas, we had Mother's Day event. We had Easter. We had Father's Day event. We had the three-week camp free of charge. We went straight back into the back to school. The holidays are coming. The people of Prospect cannot say that we are not in tune and making sure that one, your office is functioning and that we don't do things that brings the community together. And this is why I don't want people to feel that anything that we do in that constituency office is only for a certain tier of people. I'm
Mhm.
bringing our community together.
Yeah.
And we need to remove that stigma, not because it's given away for free, that you're only given for those who are needy. No, the whole intent is also to bring the electoral district of Prospect together. Let's fellowship. Let's get to know our neighbors. Who's to tell? There could be employers there, business owners there that could find a Caymanian employee. This is what you call networking.
Yep.
So it's just trying to change that stigma of really what a constituency office is all about is the key takeaway from my reign in this political position.
Okay. All right. So let's do a few questions and comments that are coming in. And then I want to talk about the travel Cayman disbanding and the new regulations and stuff, which actually go into effect today, right? Today is Wednesday.
Yes, today is Wednesday.
Okay, beautiful. So Debbie, good morning. Alice is joining us. Miss Charlene says good morning to the Honorable Minister. Cameron says,
good morning.
Don't ever have to say or feel sorry for saying things as they are. Charlene says that's absolutely correct. We have to put a process in place that our Caymanian and resident children are covered first and foremost. There's too much of advantage taken when anything is concerned, where anything is concerned, not only school supplies. Let's be more focused and aware. Straight talk. Romelia says, good morning, Sandy and Cayman. Sandy, can Minister Turner give any insight on the situation on Paul White? So do anything about a Paul White and what that is. And of course, the minister might not be able to speak to anyone specifically, Romelia, because that would probably fly in the face of confidentiality. But are you familiar with a situation with Mr. Paul White?
No, and I don't think this, whatever the nature is, I don't think it may be the place for it to speak, call anyone out. So my apologies. I'm not aware. I'm not familiar.
All right. So Joyce Ann says that's so true, Sandy. Just wanted to be directed. Charlene says a community allowance. Yes. Cameron says time for you to get an allowance too, Sandy. Well, as y'all know, I am not an elected official and I like it that way. So y'all might be trying to expect too much then for sure. Anya says, where is Minister Chris's office for Bordentown West? Because he doesn't answer the phone. Let me send him this message, Anya. I don't know, and we've had this discussion before on the program, because not every MP has an office. Some of them believe they can just be mobile, which I guess if you're actually answering the phone and you're going to people's houses or whatever, some people like it that way. I don't think that that's the best option personally. But if you are into that, but if you said he's not answering the phone, I don't know. He's supposed to have, I thought at one point that he had an office in Countryside during the last election, but I'm not sure. But his mom works in his constituency office. So I would have expected him to have a constituency number. And this is where, Minister, I'm going to just put you in pause for one quick second and do a little bit of commentary here. But this is precisely where our MPs need to be organized. They all need to have constituency offices. Now, I know it is extremely difficult sometimes to get a constituency office in your constituency, because Minister, yours technically, is that Prospect or that's Red Bay?
No, that's in Red Bay. At the front of Marina Drive is Red Bay.
So you see Minister Turner, she's not even technically in Prospect, she's in Red Bay, but that's semantics because she's got an office that's a few steps from Prospect. So you all can still find her. It's a good location, top of the road. So, sometimes you gotta work it. The Red Bay MP, somebody said he had, somebody said he had a home office the last time. You shouldn't be having people come to your house. Being an MP is akin to running a business of sorts. You should be professional and have a separate location. You get a separate budget and all those sorts of things. Run it right. You know what I'm saying? Account for all of your bills. Keep all of your receipts that you can present to Parliament, the Parliament office, who now pays for all of these allowances, gives you a monthly allowance and all that sort of stuff. Some people like to hire family to work in their constituency offices. Personally, I don't think that that's a good idea. First of all, who would want to work with a spouse? Like, I don't know about y'all, but I mean, most y'all don't like your spouses, even when you see them 2 hours a day, much less, you're having to be their boss and give them direction. I know some people like, oh, I can only trust family. Well, That's kind of sad. But sometimes you need to keep that professional relationship with someone where you need to say, hey, why are people saying that the office phone isn't getting answered? Because, that's what I'm paying you to do. And people can't reach and, respond to emails. So I think you need to find qualified individuals to work in your constituency offices, because that will reflect on you ultimately. If nobody's answering your phones and you don't have a proper email address and you haven't advertised where your office is and no one knows how to reach you, all I can say is the day y'all buck up, politicians, on the right person running against you, because some of y'all won last time because you had a bunch of fools running against you. But the time you have some really decent competition, y'all are going to be in trouble because you're not managing your affairs. You're all about optics. You're all about running on a talk show, talking pure foolishness. And when it comes down to the actual work, there is something that is missing at the constituency level. I'm not talking about your position now. If you've got an office in the glass house, you got a whole slew of civil servants who are doing their jobs. So that may or may not reflect on you. I'm speaking in your capacity as just an elected official. So, Anya, I'm sorry to hear that the minister has been unreachable. I have sent him your message, and hopefully, and this is the other thing too, is I've always encouraged MPs, like I know they have their personal number, but when they become elected, they should get a phone number as an MP and have people direct people to that, have people managing the WhatsApp messages, because you get so many messages, you can't do it yourself. So you might have to hand off the phone to have people answer and respond. And
yeah, and at the beginning, I was averaging, let's say, 350 WhatsApp messages an hour. It was almost impossible. And I know until I got the office sorted out and it was properly manned, that's the whole reason for a constituency office. Now, It is a fine line. It's a balancing act, because some will say, well, during the campaign, you found yourself at my door. You answered my call. It's the campaign. It's not that you're any less after you've been elected, but you've elected the elected representative to do your work. Now, once you go through the process and you go through the office, people have gotten either stuff done without me even touching it, or they get the audience with me as they so require, because Thursday is constituency days. Last week, I saw 3-4 people that wanted me, but I was there. I was there. It's best if you make an appointment, because, as a minister and minister of health, with COVID regs and everything else, there are times that you have your entire constituency day planned out, and either you're called in by the premier, emergency meetings. It happens. But if you run, as you rightfully say, a professional office and it's structured, when you're given an appointment time, you are seen. That's your one-on-one with your MP. But 24 hours a day, just because of a cell number, it is humanly impossible after you're elected, which is why we have our assistants.
Yep. Very good. So we have Ruby, who's just waking up. Good morning, Ruby. She says, I slept in. Charlene says that's correct. It needs to be vetted properly, and some just want handouts consistently and high style life at others' expense. Amanda says, are we able to rewatch the show? So yes, Amanda, this must be your first time tuning in, but I was mentioning this at the top of the show at 7:30. Multiple ways to watch. YouTube, Facebook means you can always go back to those platforms and watch it. And I was also telling people that we do put it on the website as well. So if you have a hard time like finding it on social media, just go to the website, the category, the Cold Hard Truth, and you see all the daily shows are listed there as well. So even if you have to go back a week and two and find previous shows, you can certainly do that. So Leanna says the NICE program, no more handouts. So I don't know. Normally we have something coming up during Christmas for the NICE program. So we'll see if that's on tap this year. I suspect that it probably will be, Leanna, and we will certainly keep you guys updated as much as we can. So Juanita says some people really expect too much. Wow. I mean, they do. And listen, like I said earlier, everybody is in the same boat to some extent. Even people who have funds and money and whatever, they still have expenses. You know what I'm saying? So don't assume because you see somebody on a honest hustle and you think that they're rich, that they don't have expenses and they don't have, and a lot of those people low key help a lot of individuals. You just don't know it. But you also need, as an individual, to take some accountability and some responsibility for your own life and your own decisions. A lot of people say to me, Sandy, you gonna have any more kids? I said, no, I can't afford any more. Right. I said to my husband this week, I said, we should adopt a kid because it's not really, I suppose things could be cut and we could squeeze in another child. And to help another child who's in a less fortunate position, I think would be amazing, as opposed to just having one of your own because you can. And, he kind of said he's not opposed to adopting a child. We'd have to really look at the logistics. We have one child in private school. And I can tell you, he's like, oh, but how are we going to afford two kids in private school? Because he jokingly said, oh, so that kid's going to go to government school. And I said, no. I said, you can't adopt one child and have one child going to government school and one in private school. That's like so wrong. Right. But of course he's kind of cheeky. But I had to think about
putting it into perspective financially,
yes,
Sandra, is what he did.
Exactly. Because I'm like, damn, I'm already. So I told him he got to get a second job twerking on a pole or something to afford that. So.
Oh my God.
So anyway, and he's not really twerkable materials. He's not into that lifestyle. So, but yeah, I mean, it is, there are challenges that people have that might not always be apparent to people on the outside. So I think this position that only take what you need and no more, and share when you have extra, whether it's food, like I was saying earlier in the week, we always have stuff in our garden, like we only eat so much. So if I notice we have an abundance, we pack up little stuff, we will take to people, give to people. When I clear out my closet, I get new stuff, I donate, because there's nothing wrong with the clothes really that I'm necessarily, changing out. It's just I've been wearing them for 10 years or whatever, so I need a refreshing wardrobe, but somebody else can get good use out of those clothes. The material's good, we can definitely find ways to play it forward and to assist each other. But at the same time, I want individuals to start taking accountability for their own lives, for their own finances, for their own way forward. I saw a mother of three the other day saying how hard it is being a mother of three in the Cayman Islands. She can't afford food, this and that. And the first question, and I'm going to be, y'all know I'm completely honest. If one thing I am on this program, you might not always like it, but my first thought is, why do you have three children if you cannot afford it? I wouldn't have three children, because that is a financial burden. Try feeding three children, try, uniforms, this, that. It's like, and you're always in this mode of having to beg people for something. And who wants that? Although I think some people become very used to asking for handout. It's unfortunate because then you pass that trait on to your children, where your children are always in handout mode. And I have seen this even within families where the youngest little children at 4 or 5 years old, they get used to just begging people because that's all that they witness. That's all that they see. And that is so sad. I mean, I didn't grow up in that environment. My aunt was like, you want something, you get up, you work hard, you get your education, you put yourself in a position in life where hopefully you can have a half decent job. But even with all of that, you still have to make smarter decisions. And as a woman going around making these no good men who are not going to support their children, pile you up with children that they may or may not pay child support for, you got 2 of their 10 or 12 kids, that's nothing to be proud of, So I just want to encourage women, because I feel like we don't have this conversation enough about birth control options and family planning and all this sort of stuff. You make the decisions because it's ultimately your life. And the children that you bring into this world have to be your first priority, but you start to make better decisions, my apologies, that don't put you in a position where you end up on the face of the compass saying, oh, I have 3, 4 kids and I can't feed my kids. And you become, you get 15 minutes of fame for a story. How are you helping yourself? Are you going to school? Are you trying to improve your opportunities in terms of job prospects and all this sort of thing? Listen, I feel so passionate about this that we need to start teaching our young ladies how to take control of their lives, take control of their reproductive health and of the decisions that they make, and stop allowing a community full of men to dictate to you, oh, you can't use birth control, you must have all these children and blah, blah, this and blah. No. Have what you can afford. Let's be honest. And not just money, but have what you can afford to spend time with. Every child should be growing up with the opportunity in the evening to spend one-on-one time with mommy and daddy. It shouldn't be, oh, you're so busy, you're working a 12-hour day, you come home, you're tired, you put your feet up, you're pushing the kids, in the bath and straight to bed, and they don't even get to see you and know who you are, and you don't get to know them and their little personalities. That isn't fair to them either. Anyway, let me pause it there. Minister, we also now have transitioned to the lifting of pretty much all of the restrictions when it comes to travelers coming to the Cayman Islands. So let's just quickly review what announcement was made on Friday as it relates to the COVID regulations.
Yes, and I'm excited that that is now in effect. And the COVID travel regulation and control and management of COVID have all now been pretty much, have been repealed. And which means that unvaccinated visitors can come to our islands, and also there's no longer a need to have a travel declaration to enter the Cayman Islands. What needs to be taken away from this, though, is that the Cayman Islands as a jurisdiction is leading this charge in allowing unvaccinated non-Caymanian nationals to visit our shores. But it's not the same when you're leaving the Cayman Islands and going to the U.S. So people need to do their due diligence, because right now the U.S. states only Americans can come back, or persons holding an exempt letter from not being vaccinated can enter. So in this whole COVID sphere of things, we, the Cayman Islands, is leading the charge now in removing the vaccination requirement ahead of the U.S. So that's a huge takeaway for us. It bolsters back the tourists who want to make plans for coming for Christmas travel, because there is a lead time out, and it tells definitely the persons in that industry to be prepared with what we have seen, and we're looking at the global prevalence of positives, is why we have actually been able to pull up the expiry of the regs, because they were due to expire the end of this month. But we were that confident, based on statistics, to be in a point where we can make an informed decision to just retract the COVID regs ahead of time. I know a big thing too was schools starting back now. Where does that leave the wearing of masks? Again, based on the prevalency rate in our islands, in our local community, we're looking at our hospitalization, those who are really, really sick, and we don't feel, in consultation with the medical officer of health and the CMO, coupled with everything that's going on locally and internationally, that it's any risk in mandating mask. But however, we're just transferring the personal responsibility onto people. If you know that you have a vulnerable family member at home, someone who's immunocompromised, it's still your choice to wear a mask if you so desire when you're going to church or the supermarkets, and nobody should look at you differently, because that's your personal choice. Now, for older people's homes, place of imprisonment, and healthcare facilities, we are still recommending that is worn, because of course they are at risk. So those are the areas, and it's COVID management, number 4. That has continued, where mask wearing is concerned, in those places where the operators of those places can say you need to wear a mask. That is good until the October 24th. But all other regulations are no longer applicable where limits are concerned: indoor, outdoor, inter-island travel, all of that stuff. But, when you look at it, Sandra, what we have been inundated, Ministry of Health and Wellness, for the year and a half that I've been in this position with COVID regs. It's been very time consuming, and I want to thank my ministerial team for definitely stepping up to the plate and never wavering at our responsibility in making sure that the health and safety of our islands is key. When you look at what was predicted in the early days, how much deaths that were forecasted, the Cayman Islands is a blessed jurisdiction, and it is the way in which it was managed from those who were there before. We have taken on, and it is our steam. It is our primary focus now that we have the vaccines and we have the booster uptake, and people heeding to that call earlier in that we're in this most this position to live with COVID because of our high community vaccine rate. But what it has also shown as well is the gaps within our public health, the importance of surveillance, the importance of making sure at a national level that we have the skill sets. We now have an epidemiologist, so we don't have to question what's happening medically in our community to make informed decisions and to execute certain regulations and laws if the need is required. So it has also been able to highlight the career and job opportunities within our healthcare sector. And look globally, how we're looking for nurses. The Cayman Islands has a school of nursing. And where can that be enhanced and all of that? Look at the genomic sequencing, a whole lab. You think it's just for COVID? No, that can help us with communicable and non-communicable diseases and making us be able to get results on the point instead of sending samples across the field waiting weeks. We are in a position because of what we have done to bolster our independence in surveillance and public health with all that we have experienced that has highlighted so much. And one of the other things as well that people need to know with this is that whether or not you're unvaccinated, should you feel that you have flu-like symptoms or you're just not sure, we're still encouraging people to do an LFT at home. It is still a notifiable disease. So if you know, and we know we got those people out there who know they're positive and they've never reported it to public health, confirm that LFT positive by going through the drive-through at Truman Bodden Sports Complex. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 now until 11. I saw them did some PR on it. And that's a way of public health to continue the surveillance by getting that sample to make sure, is it still, we know the strain, the variant, in case anything changes within our community. That's the only how we're going to be able to genomic sequence those samples. But we want you to be responsible. If you get tested positive on an LFT at home, go to the drive-through, get a free PCR. Because remember now, it is public health. So you're not going to be charged for going to the drive-through to get that PCR. And that legitimizes your reason for being home for 7 days, which is what is recommended. And you can prove that to your employer should they have doubts as to whether or not you were truly positive.
Right.
That legitimizes your reasoning for being home. So we're happy as a government to be in this position, and myself and my ministerial team are over the moon because we can now focus on other areas, not to say that we're putting COVID aside, but with these relaxation, it definitely gives us some more breathing room to deal with other pending legislation. We got our national health policy that we have to look at. We're looking at the public health, which is publicly known and approved by cabinet, the separation thereof. And great things are in store for Ministry of Health and definitely for our healthcare and improving that for the people of these islands.
Do we have, I know monkeypox is obviously, the World Health Organization has declared that as a definite concern. Do we have any monkeypox vaccine available on island? Because I know this is something that in the US, for example, they found that there was actually a shortage of, because vaccines expire. They only last for so long. So people are not using them. And there's not a uptick on, production and stuff like that. And you find yourself all of a sudden in the middle of verging on some sort of a pandemic. There's a rush to try to get vaccine out to market. So do we actually have, I know we haven't had a first case yet, but you know, do we have any monkeypox vaccine on island?
The last time I checked with our CEO and with public health, that they were expecting a shipment, and like you rightfully say, it is a byproduct of the smallpox vaccine. I would be more than happy to give you an update or have the medical officer of health come to speak to that a little bit more. But that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago when the question came that there was rumored we had a positive case and that we don't have any vaccines here. But I was assured that they were either coming the end of that week or the following week, which would, once I confirm now, would mean that we have a small amount. But as you rightfully said, how right now that is being treated with what discussions I've had with the CMO in regards to monkeypox is that we are monitoring it within our community. We know that it's within the region. And when you look at the Cayman Islands and you look at positive cases reported to WHO in our region, it is amongst us in the region, but not proven here, and that we're putting the necessary guardrails in place in order to deal with it should it find itself on our shores. What is proposed is that only those persons with direct contact of a positive monkeypox case will be encouraged to get vaccinated, and that's within 5 to 7 days because of the limited supply. And for definitely those persons who may be immunocompromised, those would be the ones over 50, the older population, to get vaccinated. But to say that it's going to be handled at this very point, like how we went and did this mass vaccination drive for COVID, no, that is not the intended purpose from what we have received from public health and other officials in the management of monkeypox.
All right. Very, very good. Let me just, I've got some confirmation of some stuff. So Minister, thank you so much. We know that you're extremely busy. At some point, we do want to have you on to talk a little bit about home affairs, which has been added on to your area of responsibility. But we've got other things that we need to get to this morning as well. So Minister Sabrina Turner.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. And one more thing before you leave. I've mentioned and I've talked to you about my 50 by 50 plan. People have different goals. And so I'm happy to say that Minister Turner is going to be joining us on our wellness journey. So folks, if you know, on Thursdays, which is tomorrow, we'll be talking a bit more about what was accomplished during this past week, where we're at with things, and the way forward. So I've got some names already. If you don't know what the 50 by 50 plan is, tune in tomorrow morning. We'll go over it for a little bit. But the Minister of Health and Wellness is completely on board. She doesn't mind losing a few pounds as well. So do you have a goal in mind? Do you have a goal in mind for how much you'd like to lose?
I'm going to aim realistically for 25 pounds, understanding for those persons as females, we gain a little bit more whether or not we want it. But I have been fighting with hypothyroid for a number of years. And once that's under control, but it's all about balance and the wellness. And I like to get on a challenge. You feel more accountable and we can do it together. So yes, I'm excited to join the crew. And at least I want to be one of those ministers of health that at the end of my tenure, based on the people of Prospect, they can see I didn't gain in inches, but I'm healthy and I've lost some.
Yes, very good. So she's in, folks. We wrangled her in. I think Minister Jay Ebanks is supposed to be joining us tomorrow. So we're going to work on him as well, because he got a couple pounds too that he might want to lose. So yes, a lot of our MPs
we should get the whole team.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
we should try to get the whole cabinet on board and caucus members as well.
And you know what? MPs are just like us, folks. They got poor eating habits. Some smoke, some drink Pepsis for breakfast. We all have these.
Sometimes we got to eat on the go. I've been in places where my breakfast is still in the car because you're either returning calls or, but it is hard, but it's those moments where making a healthy selection, grab a granola bar, get a fruit or something instead of driving up to my famous kitchen, Burger King, because it's easy, but it is what it is. And we got to invest in our health. And that's why I'm on board with you.
Yep. Awesome. So we'll be in touch with you, Minister. Catherine says that she's been trying to get in contact with you, both her and her sister, and they've not had any luck. So just repeat the contact details for the office, Catherine, so you can call the MP office today.
Catherine, 1 second, 746. Let's get this here. I don't call myself too often. So it's 746-9314.
All right.
746-9314.
All right. So give them a call after 10 o'clock this morning, Catherine. And she said that Thursdays is her constituency day. So see if they can't fit you in perhaps for tomorrow, if the schedule has some availability. So Minister, again, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you coming on the program this morning, and have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you. Likewise.